Well, hello, friends. This is teZa, and this is the ZLORD podcast. Without Carter, he is down below. We are at Anchorage, and this is our third night here off the tip of Cumberland Island in Georgia. Probably a lot of people know about Cumberland these days because it's been talked about a lot on the latest TV serial about JFK Jr. and Caroline Bessette. But here we are at Anchorage, and I just want to tell you a little bit about what it's like to live aboard Bird, our beautiful 25-foot McGregor sailboat with no sail and with no mast, but we've turned it into the riverboat and our little dinghy Birdie. So Carter's napping because we've had quite a harrowing last couple days. And a friend of mine texted and said, I hope you're vlogging this. Well, guess what? I can't even upload the last podcast I did for ZLORD, which is audio, and I sure as heck can't get on any YouTube vlogging. There's no internet here at Anchorage, and there's very little reception out of all the bars you get. I got a little tiny one, maybe half one, enough to send a text. And so I thought I would take the opportunity before we go into our next series of kind of non-stop traveling to tell you what's going on aboard the good ship Bird. So we came to this beautiful Anchorage in anticipation of waiting for the right tide, the right wind to make the crossing between Cumberland Island and Jekyll. I hope I said that right. It's not Jekyll. It's not Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's Jekyll. I always get them mixed up. And so we thought we would explore Cumberland. We've been here before with bikes. We brought a boat years ago with some bikes. It's funny because the Coast Guard stopped us because we looked like refugees. The Coast Guard is pretty strict about mysterious-looking boats, and ours is definitely a strange-looking boat. On the Bird, here we have an awning up most of the time, and it looks like a floating tent. But inside the tent, of course, is our cockpit. And Carter and I are either at the helm or fiddling about down below, getting something together, or looking for, here on the Intracoastal, one of the many markers that mark the way, that give you the signal of where to stay in the channel. And you have to be pretty alert. You can't just read a book. You can't just listen to some music. You have to stay alert because there's boats, and some of them are quite big. Some of them are tugboats, and some of them even a 230-foot cruise ship, I think, that we talked about in our last podcast, if I can figure out how to upload it. It was called American Glory, specifically designed for intercoastal waterways, and it only draws a little bit because, of course, the intercoastal is shallow compared to the ocean, but they keep the main channel dredged mandatory. It has to be 6 feet, I believe, and 6 feet is enough to accommodate a heavily loaded barge and a special tug that's designed for inland waters, not ocean-going tugs, and boats like ours that don't have much of a keel. We pull, or we draw, in sailor lingo, not even 2 feet. And an ocean-going sailboat will draw something like 6 foot or 7 foot, sometimes even more if they're just designed for racing around the world. But of course, those kind of boats cannot go on the rivers. You have to have a shallow draft. I know a lot of this is sailor jargon, but that's what makes it exciting to know about that. So we arrived at our anchorage here at Cumberland and dropped the hook. That's the anchor. And I'm in charge of anchoring. And lo and behold, the first anchorage did not work because we just didn't approach it correctly. We'd already done several other anchorages because this was our third day of anchoring by the time we arrived here at Cumberland. All the other anchorages were fine, but this one, we weren't facing the wind right. The current is funky. The wind is going one way, the current's going another way, and God knows what's happening on the bottom of the 20-something feet below us, but it just didn't catch. You have to have the anchor firmly catching into whatever kind of bottom there is, whether it's sand or mud or well, if it's rock, that's not good. You don't want to anchor in a rocky situation. So we pulled up the anchor and we did it again, and the second anchorage was successful. And both Carter and I are experienced, so any of you who are listening, don't be too worried. But, it's a learning curve for us too. There's so much about being on the water that is so very different than being on land and just flicking on a switch and there's your electric. And, on a boat, you have to create your own electricity. You have to bring either the water in jugs or, a water tank, and food, of course. You always have to think ahead. Do you have enough? And so I'll get into that because just today I made the last meal from our tiny little ice chest. So from now on it's going to be canned goods. But I bought good canned goods, protein and vegetables in cans rather than just a little tiny bit of Chef Boyardee stuff. But when you're at sea, you just want quick and easy. You don't want to have a gourmet meal. The meal I made just now was a little bit of leftover lettuce. I sauteed it with lots of garlic. Yes, you can cook with lettuce, folks. There are such things as lettuce soup and all sorts of interesting things, but so lettuce can be used as a vegetable. And then I added, after lots and lots of sauteing, and it had turned really kind of almost crispy, I added, let's see, what did I add? I added noodles, chickpea noodles, and then I added a clam juice, which I had, and I had a can of clams, which I brought in there, and so that all boiled and cooked up nicely, and add a little water and let it steam for the rest. You don't have to cook noodles all the way, just let them steam. Meanwhile, I was making a salad with the very last of our lettuce. I think I brought 3 or 4 heads with us when we left 4 days ago. Every night we had like a half a head of lettuce with all sorts of other things like cucumbers and celery and whatnot that we had in our cooler. But tonight, it is empty. The cooler is empty. It's drying out and ready for the next batch wherever we can run into some fresh vegetables. Hopefully the next stop. And so by the time we had this beautiful meal, I guess you can't call it clams linguine. It was clams, chickpea noodles with a nice salad. It was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. And for beverage, I made what's it called? It's the new kind of substitute for coffee. It's made of mushrooms. It has cacao in it and also different kind of instant dissolving mushrooms. It was quite tasty with a lot of milk. And for milk, I buy the UHT. That stands for ultra high temperature. And that lasts quite a long time, rather as opposed to regular milk. And that's something I became accustomed to like decades ago. The French people that I sailed with in the Caribbean, they turned me on to UHT. And now it's become quite a common commodity in grocery stores, and you can get it at Walmarts and all sorts of regular grocery stores. UHT. So it's ultra high pasteurized too, or temperature. So here we were at our anchorage, and we thought, we have to see Cumberland Island. So we went to shore, and we wanted to go for a walk. And we went for a nice long walk. Oh, Carter is waking up from a nap. Maybe he'll join me. I'm talking about Carter, our adventures, because I don't want to forget about it. So we went off for our walk, and we didn't even think about bugs, insects, ticks, or anything like that. When we packed for this trip, we thought, we're going to be on the water. We don't have to bring any tick prevention stuff. But lo and behold, Cumberland Island is filled with deer, besides the wild horses. And before we knew it, we saw ticks crawling all over us, which is not good. So when we got back to the boat, we did a tick check, and both of us had several, not just regular ticks, but deer ticks, those little tiny things that are just about as big as a pencil dot on paper. But when we came back after our 4-mile walk, lo and behold, we were high and dry on a cliff. And we did not realize that there was going to be a cliff there. And the cliff was not just a beautiful sandy cliff. It was rocky and covered with mud like clay. It was the most treacherous looking cliff. And it was about a 6-foot drop from where our dinghy was, called Birdie, to the water. So we studied the situation for a while. And we had gas cans on board the dinghy because we have to carry gas for our auxiliary outdoor motor. And so we decided to hide the gas cans and make a run for it with the dinghy because the winds were increasing. And just a second. Hey, Carter, can you keep it down? He's asking for earplugs. This is on board the boat, right? He's asking for earplugs, and I'm trying to give you an update. That's what it's like when you live in close quarters. You have to learn to adapt, to cooperate. So anyway, we got back to the boat, but it was pretty hairy, and we were hoping to get back to the boat and just have a nap. But we get back to the boat, and we're in the middle of a nor'easter. And the nor'easter is honking. I mean, it's 20 miles an hour. And our little anchor is getting tested severely. So we're studying the situation. Do we need to move? Do we need to put out a second anchor? We let out a lot more line because the more line you have on an anchor, the easier it is on the pressure of the anchor, and it can hold really deeply. It's a Danforth anchor, for any of those of you know. It's a really good anchor. And so we studied the situation. We started looking at tide charts because the little bit of internet that we are able to get, we could get some apps. So that's a blessing, boy. We could look at some tide charts. We could look at some wind charts. And we decided that we had to wait another 2 days for the wind to die to make this next crossing, which is kind of hairy. It's across, I think it's called St Andrews, which is the strait. It's open to the ocean, but it's in between Cumberland Island and Jekyll Island. And you don't want to have too much wind or tide, and you certainly don't have any engine problems. For a super motorboat, it's no problem. You just roar across, but we're not that. We're just chugging along at a little 9 horsepower and, just having a very comfortable time. So I just wanted to give you a little update about what it's like here aboard the good ship Bird with the captain down below insisting on earplugs because I'm up here talking to you. But it is very close quarters, and we're getting used to it. We've only been out to river, out to the Intracoastal now for 5 days. So it takes a while to adapt, to be living in such close quarters, and to be sharing so many responsibilities that your life depends upon. So because of my good friend Leanne suggesting that I vlog, I can't vlog, but I can talk to my podcast people. Okay? And I send you lots of love. And just remember, keep life spiritual, because no matter what's happening to you, it's about us and our spirit all connected. We are one. I love you. Bye-bye.